All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's meeting of Council on Tuesday, 21st of October, 2025. To start the official proceedings, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Jara country, of which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation, and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. We have all 8 councillors present tonight, as well as 3 directors and 1 acting CEO. We have no apologies. Our regular CEO is still on leave, but will be back soon. And we have acting CEO Anir sitting next to me. At item 3, councillors, are there any declarations of interest or conflicts of interest? No? Fantastic. Item 4, confirmation of minutes, and 4.1, confirmation of minutes from the meeting of council on 16th of September 2025. Do I have a motion, councillors? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that the meetings of the minutes, of the meeting of the Mount Alexander Shire Council held on the 16th of September 2025 be confirmed.
Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Is there any opposition? No? Then I will put the motion. All in favour? That is all of us. Motion is carried. Thank you. At item 5, we have acknowledgements. Today we have nil. And at item 6, we have public time. Is there anyone in the gallery who is intending to speak tonight? Fantastic. All right, then, councillors, we will need to suspend standing orders.
So moved.
And a seconder? Thank you. All in favour to suspend standing orders? That's all of us. Standing orders are suspended. So we have some pre-submitted questions. We'll go to the ones that we have pre-submitted first, and then I'll get to other people in the gallery. So I'm wondering, is Rachel Goldlust here tonight? With Rachel being absent, I will read the question on her behalf. RE, proposal for Hungry Jack's. Can't actually find it listed on any future meeting listed publicly. 1. Community need and planning. What evidence supports the need for another fast food outlet in this town? How does this proposal align with the town's strategic planning or health and wellbeing plans? Was a community impact assessment conducted? If so, what were the findings? 2. Health and wellbeing. How does the council plan to mitigate the potential negative health impacts of increased fast food availability? Has the council considered the cumulative impact of multiple fast food outlets on community health, particularly for youth? 3. Youth impact. What measures are in place to ensure that the increased availability of fast food does not contribute to unhealthy eating habits among young people? Has the council consulted with local schools or youth services about the potential influence of another fast food outlet? 4. Zoning and proximity. Is the proposed Hungry Jack's located near schools, parks or youth centres? If so, how is this being addressed? Are there zoning restrictions or health promoting zoning policies that apply to this development? 5. Economic and social considerations. What are the expected economic benefits of this development and how do they weigh against potential health costs? Will this outlet create meaningful employment opportunities for local youth or primarily low-wage casual jobs? 6. Environmental impact. What environmental assessments have been conducted regarding waste, traffic and emissions? How will the council manage increased litter and packaging waste associated with fast food? Can council please be transparent about the increase of chain outlets in this town and how the community can be notified? I'm going to hand over to Acting Director Duthie to provide a response. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Rachel, for the question. No planning application has been lodged with council in relation to a proposed Hungry Jack's. Therefore, no assessment of any proposed business nor location has been undertaken. Council can and is currently advocating to the state government for changes to the Mount Alexander planning scheme that could lead to inclusions in decision guidelines relevant to health and wellbeing. Currently, there are no such guidelines in the planning scheme. While the planning scheme does not have the ability to take these matters into formal consideration for a planning assessment at this time, Council's Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 25 to 29, which was endorsed by Council on 16 September 25, sets out what Council can and will do to protect, promote and improve community health and wellbeing in the Shire over the next 4 years, in partnership with government and health and community service organisations. The plan, which is available on the Council website, has 6 strategic priorities to respond to local health and wellbeing indicators and the strengths and gaps highlighted by community and agency partners. These are improved wellbeing, increased healthy eating and food security, increased active living, tackling climate change and its impact on health, reducing harm from alcohol and drug use, and preventing violence and promoting gender equity.
Thank you, Acting Director. And I may add on to the end of this one, just to kind of, I guess, close the loop on this question. We believe that the initial kind of reporting that a Hungry Jack's proposal was coming to Council with a recommendation to approve was most likely a rumour started on social media on some of the local community pages, which rapidly gathered momentum and caused an amount of panic. And some people were very excited about it as well, I think, but we have no planning application for a Hungry Jack's at this time, and I think it has been addressed to the lady in question as well as to the person who posted the original kind of breaking news. So that is that one. We have another question here. Can I check, is Paul Brown here tonight? All right. Councillor Cordy, would you read Mr. Brown's question, please?
Thanks for that, Mayor. Hi. What is the Council's view on the massive amount of the South African weed, Zinna, that has taken over a huge amount of our nature strips? Cheers, Brownie.
A nice short and sweet question there from Paul Brown or Brownie. I am going to once again pass over to Acting Director Duthie to provide a response.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Paul, for the question. Gazania is currently classified as an environmental weed, which means it poses no threat to agriculture. Therefore, the species has no legislation to enforce its control. While Council is the responsible authority for nature strips, Council does not undertake maintenance, including mowing, watering or weed control of nature strips, unless the condition of the nature strip is considered to pose a hazard. The activities detailed are the responsibility of the property owner adjacent to the nature strip. Gazania is one of the most chemical intensive species to control out of all pest plants within the Shire, as it requires high rates of herbicide to have any effect at all, plus regular, repeated follow-up control efforts are essential to achieve eradication. Digging out or wholesale scalping and soil removal are other effective techniques to achieve control of the weed. However, these techniques obviously cause far more ground disturbance than what is ideal. It's for these reasons that Council therefore does not have any actively weed control on gazanias.
Thank you, Acting Director, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question, and thanks, Councillor Cordy, for reading it out. Do we have Ken McKimmie in the audience tonight? No. Councillor Walker, would you like to read out Mr. McKimmie's submission, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The submission from Ken McKinney relates to Eureka Street name change. It reads, recently the residents of Eureka Street, Chewton, discovered that without their knowledge, the part of the street south of the railway line had been named Dingo Park Road. This potentially creates a logistical and administrative burden on residents, for example, updating addresses, potential title changes, etc. We have previously asked Council to investigate the situation with a view to retaining our previous addresses in our petition, now in the hands of Council, presents an alternative workable solution to the problem. Has council been able to determine how the name change was allowed to take place without our knowledge, and what progress is there towards returning the residential part of the street back to its original name?
Thank you, Councillor Walker. And once again, I'm passing to Acting Director Duthie. Oh, I'm not. Apologies. I'm passing to Director Landy to provide a response. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all right. And thank you, Kenneth, for the question. This situation has been investigated, and it's become apparent that there's an inconsistency in the naming of a section of Eureka Street across some of council systems and the state government mapping system. I certainly apologise that this inconsistency in naming has caused some confusion and concern for some residents. I can confirm that there's been no intention to rename parts of Eureka Street as Dingo Park Road. Council is in agreement with the residential section of this road being called Eureka Street, with the name Dingo Park Road commencing after house number 53. A request was submitted in June this year to the Victorian editing system when we were first alerted to this issue, and a follow-up request has also been submitted to ensure the state government mapping system is updated to resolve the inconsistency and to show the residential section of this road as Eureka Street. And we have received confirmation from the VES that this request has been received and will be actioned. These actions will confirm our council and state government systems that the name Eureka Street extends to cover the residential of this section of this street up to and including house number 53.
Thank you, Director Landy. And we might need to check the batteries in that mic. And thank you, Mr. McKimmie, for your submission. I note also that there is an item later on in the meeting that will also speak to this matter. We have another question tonight submitted by Bill Wigglesworth, and my understanding is, Councillor Hayden, that you will be reading on Mr. Wigglesworth's behalf.
Thank you, Mayor. So from Bill Wigglesworth from Graffiti Busters. Thank you for the opportunity to raise these questions tonight. Our questions concern the effectiveness of the CCTV on the 2 railway bridges in Castlemaine. These questions have been prompted by the recent spate of graffiti on the Johnston Street Railway Bridge. 1. If a criminal incident is captured by CCTV on the 2 railway bridges where it's currently installed, does Mount Alexander Shire Council automatically report that incident to the police and provide them with the relevant CCTV footage? Or, as in Bendigo, can police get CCTV footage without going through council? 2. Since the cameras have been installed on the 2 railway bridges, how many times have criminal charges resulted? 3. How long does Mount Alexander Shire Council keep CCTV footage? 4. What has been the evaluation since the cameras were installed, and how can the public access this? And 5, how much has it cost the council to repair criminal damage on its assets in the past financial year? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor and Mr. Wigglesworth. Now I'm going to Acting Director Duthie for a response.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Bill, for the question. I'll respond, if I can, to each one of those dot points as I go. And in response to question 1, council officers report all known vandalism and graffiti incidents to the police relating to occurrences on council managed assets. When graffiti occurs on a VicTrack asset, it's the responsibility of VicTrack to report to the police that matter. That said, if graffiti occurs on the Johnston Street and Forest Street bridges, council officers will endeavour to report this to the police. And council officers only provide footage to the police following a formal request. That covers point 1. Point 2, council officers are not aware of any criminal charges resulting from police viewing the CCTV footage from the bridges. That would be a specific question for the police. Into point 3, in regards to how long do we retain the footage, council retains footage from the Johnston Street and Forest Street cameras for a period of 30 days. Point 4, there's no publicly accessible report evaluating these cameras. Police have requested footage on 2 occasions throughout the 24-25 calendar year. It should be noted that the cameras have been deemed a success as graffiti has reduced greatly on the Forest Street and Johnson Street bridges since the installation of these cameras, which points to the provision of cameras deterring vandals from acting on these assets. And lastly, in regards to the expense, I can advise that approximately $100,000 was spent by council repairing vandalism, cleaning up rubbish and cleaning graffiti in the 24/25 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Director, and thank you, Mr. Wigglesworth and Graffiti Busters, for your questions and also for the work that you're doing as part of the graffiti response. It is seen and appreciated by Council. These are all of our pre-submitted questions. So now anyone who wishes to speak is able to do so. There are some ground rules. I'm not going to go over them all. The base one is you've got 3 minutes. If you're very near the end of what you'd like to say at the 3 minutes, I'll give you a little bit more time. Acting CEO will be timing on the phone. The only other one I guess that I'll add is that we cannot accept questions about a planning matter that is on the agenda. So if anyone is hoping to speak to a planning matter on tonight's agenda, that won't be possible. That being said, is anyone in the gallery wanting to speak to Council tonight? Please come up to the microphone. If you can just introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Thank you for the opportunity. Barry Dunn is the name. I've been a resident 33 years. I'm an old man and I've got a weak bladder. So it concerns the locked toilets at Camp Reserve. They've been locked for some months now. And I understand it wasn't just a council initiative to build them. There's state government money, and the clerk on one of them says, this project was completed with financial assistance from the Victorian government. So just obviously they're public toilets, but at the moment they're not available to the public. I'll be as brief as I can. When they were in use, they got a lot of activity. Tradespeople with utilities and trailers that couldn't access Victory Park toilets would come down there. Caravans would use those facilities. I understand the Camp Reserve toilets are listed on a state toilet register so that caravanners would know about them. And couriers delivering around the town, they would come there, and because they're away from traffic, you could see them reloading their parcels and reorganising their vans. So it's not just the locals out walking the dogs or coming home from the shops, it's a number of people using them. And they're in good order, they're operating toilets, but they're locked up, they're not defective in any way. And a very sad aspect, people living and facing that area, Camp Reserve, got to put up with people urinating on the exterior of the buildings. So I'd just appreciate if a councillor or a Shire officer could tell me when those toilets will be reopened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Acting Director Duthy.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for the question. I'm not specifically aware of the need for the closure of those specific toilets. I'm more than happy to take that on notice, follow it up and provide a response through to governance.
So I'm just conferring quickly. So I have some information about this purely because I am the councillor representative that sits on the Camp Reserve Community Asset Committee. So we have a lot of reserves and different assets, halls and stuff that are managed by committees of management, and one of them is the Camp Reserve. So it's run by a committee made up of user groups. I've been attending those meetings for the last year, and the decision was made a couple of meetings ago that because of the repeated and I guess escalating instances of misuse of the toilets, vandalism, lots and some excessive need to clean up after other people, that the toilets would be locked during the day. It was a decision made by the committee to kind of address those concerns because at the moment they are managing that self-cleaning everything, and it's honestly mainly one lady who does a lot of the work, and I think the workload was really getting to her. So that was the decision of the committee. I'm happy to take back to the committee. We have a meeting next week that concerns have been raised by members of the public and feedback some of these points that you have raised. And I'm sure council officers are also able to communicate with the committee to see if there might be interest or ability to come to a compromise around the toilets use. But that is why they've been locked for the last little while. I hope that that answers your question, and we'll do some work going forward to see what kind of compromise we can reach. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak from the gallery? I can't see you very. Hello. Come up front. Please introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Malcolm Robbins. Can you hear me okay? I'm a Castlemaine resident. I've been in Castlemaine for the last...
Just a little bit, sorry, just a little bit closer.
Yeah, I'm a Castlemaine resident. I've been in Castlemaine for the last 10 years. I'm a refugee from Port Melbourne. And one of the reasons that I moved up here was environmental, climate, and just a good place to live. I'm commenting on the roadmap report card, which is an attachment to the agenda, but I understand is not being addressed in the agenda specifically. Therefore, I consider myself being allowed to comment.
And it's not a planning matter, so you're totally fine to go for it.
That's great. Thanks very much. Well, I want to start by commending the council for doing an excellent job on addressing the issue that was brought up initially in 2019 by the Mount Alexander Climate Emergency Team, of which I was a member, and came up with the philosophy of having a policy to achieve net zero in council operations by 2025. It appears that council has done by reading that report, it appears that the council has done an excellent job of not merely making a promise, but actually trying to fulfil that promise. I do note a number of minor things that I'm not comfortable with, but that's not the point of talking about it in this meeting. What that leads on to another item which is sort of indirectly related to this meeting, that is the basis of the success of reaching net zero. Since 2019, which is like 6 years away, the scenario has changed a great deal. That was based on the IPCC report of a year or so beforehand. I think it was in 2018 that indicated that a target, a global warming target of 1.5 degrees Celsius was achievable and we should plan for it. And council did the right thing and planned for it, and not merely did they plan for it, they planned for it sort of ahead of time. Now we're in a situation where the target of 1.5 degrees Celsius has already been broken. That's 17 or 15 to 17 years early, depending on how you look at it. And that changes, well, basically moves the goalposts of everything the council has to do to meet the obligation of not just meeting net zero, but meeting the target of a livable temperature rise over the last 100 years or so. 1.5 degrees, when it was nominated by the experts who nominated it, said that is really too high. It's dangerous. In fact,
I'll ask you to finish your point and wrap up if it's okay, Mr. Robbins.
The point is that we need to, for purposes of resilience achievement, do better than what we're already doing and rewrite the Constitution, if you like, to actually make the future livable for our children and grandchildren. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. And I know you've been part of the action for a very long time. I've seen your name pop up in numerous places, giving feedback and speaking to council and providing, your expertise on this matter. What are we doing? Am I going over to Acting Director Duthie? Or Acting CEO Anir? No relation.
Yeah, yes. I'd have to come out sometime now. Mr. Robbins, I think if you do get the time to have a look at the climate change strategy, which there is some reports at the table today, but the strategy itself commits council to continuing to do more in this area. It commits council to continue on the investment in the reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions that our operations produce, so to reduce those for a first start. But secondly, to look at the work that we can do with building resilience of our community with regard to addressing climate change. That's also addressed in the recently adopted council plan for 2025 to 2029, as well as in the municipal public health and wellbeing plan for the same period. There's a series of actions and commitments there, particularly in relation to health and the interface between the impact of climate on health for our community. So as a council, the councillors of the table have committed across multiple different strategic and policy documents to continue this work. It's a big challenge, as you have highlighted, so we'll do what we can as we move forward over the next 4 years and beyond. Yep.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to the next development in the story.
Thank you. We are too. Does anyone else from the gallery wish to speak tonight? Oh, sorry, I can't see you behind the lectern, I'm sorry, but please come up and if you can just state your name and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name's Kerry Herbison. I'm a representative for the petition for Reckelbin and Gaffney Street. I just wanted to sort of get a bit of a message across as far as the frustration that a lot of the residents are feeling with the volume of traffic that's coming from the Pyrenees Highway up, cutting through up Gaffney Street, Reckelbin Streets, and also the speed at which the cars are driving. I've sent through some photographs of cars who are driving on the wrong side of the road. And those photographs were only really taken at a half-hourly interval at over 3 days. So if you multiply that by the amount of hours and the days of the week, there are a lot of people who are breaking the law and driving on the wrong side of the road at speed. And a lot of the residents are really concerned about that someone's going to get either killed or severely injured from the erratic driving. A lot of us are also getting abused by drivers trying to pull in and out of our driveways. And we're just grateful that we were given the opportunity to have a chat to Rosie a couple of weeks ago, and also very grateful that you've put down road counters to see the impact that the volume is coming of the cars. So our frustrations are that the cars are coming at 10 to 4 in the morning and finish about 12 midnight. So it's this ongoing issue, and it's getting worse since there's been development out at Mackenzie Hill and Maldon and so on and so forth. So we're just wondering what measures will occur after the road counters and our petition has been tabled, etc.
No worries. So as you've noted, and just after this, in fact, at item 7, we will be tabling your petition, which you have submitted. So the process by which that works, we table it at the meeting tonight, which is us just formally receiving it. And then we are asking for a report on this petition at the meeting of council on 16th of December, which is a standard kind of time to give officers time to do the data gathering and to provide a recommendation on any further work that needs to be done. So that's kind of the timeline going forward.
So do we get information about the data that's gathered about the volume of traffic, speed?
I'm now getting out of my depth, so I'm going to pass over to Acting Director Duthie.
Thank you for your question, and it is a very comprehensive petition, and thank you for putting it through. The data is gathered actually performs and provides council information to be included in the report, which then guides recommendations. So as to you getting specifically the data from the counters, that will be included and referenced in that report.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
So December meeting is your time. You will see it as an item there, and that is when the report responding to your petition will be tabled with council for our consideration.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. It's just that almost everyone signed it. So
I know.
so we
Thank
just,
you.
yeah, thank you very much for your time. I
No
appreciate it.
worries.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Does anyone else from the gallery wish to speak? All right, then I'll find my agenda. Here it is, and we will resume standing orders, please. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a seconder? Fantastic. All in favour? We have resumed standing orders. Now we are up to item 7, petitions and letters. 7.1, petition Reckleben and Gaffney Streets, Castlemaine. Can I please ask Councillor Hayden to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. So petition Reckleben and Gaffney Streets, Castlemaine. Council has received a petition on 7 October 2025 from residents requesting for changes to traffic conditions on Gaffney Street and Malden Road, Pyrenees Highway, Castlemaine. And I move that Council 1 acknowledges receipt of the petition, and 2 receives a report on this petition at the meeting of Council on 16 December 2025.
Fantastic. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Is there any opposition? Then I will put the motion. All in favour? That is all of us. Motion is carried. We have received the petition and we will receive a report at the meeting of council on 16th of December. 7.2, another petition. Objection to the naming of section of road to Dingo Park Road, Chewton. I'm going to ask Councillor Walker to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Council received a petition on the 15th of October 2025 from residents voicing their strong opposition to the renaming of the residential part of Eureka Street, Chewton, south of the railway line as Dingo Park Road. The petition is shown as confidential and attachment 7.2.1. I would propose that Council 1 acknowledges receipt of the petition and 2 receives a report on this petition at the meeting of Council on 16th of December 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cordy, any opposition? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. And again, we acknowledge receipt of the petition and will receive a report at the December meeting of Council. Item 8, committee reports. And I'm going to ask Councillor Driscoll to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The North Central Goldfields Regional Library Board, NCGRL, reports for the ordinary board meetings on the 8th of August and the 9th of September 2025 are provided for the information of councillors at confidential attachment 8.11. The Director, Healthy Communities, has provided the attached reports on behalf of the NCGRL board. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council notes the North Central Goldfields Library Corporation board reports provided at confidential attachment 8.11. These documents are provided for information only and no decision is required.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? It was you. Would you like to second the motion, Councillor? Fantastic. Do I have any opposition? No. I will put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. And I will take the very quick opportunity to, one, talk about how fantastic libraries are, how lucky we are to have such a wonderful library in our Shire, and note, as I want to do, that this is our 4th year in a row that libraries have received no increase in funding from the state government, who have effectively frozen the funding for the last 4 financial years. The compounding impact will soon affect the services that libraries are able to deliver at a time when libraries are needed more than ever as not just a source of entertainment, leisure, study, but as a place for people to connect. It's one of the only places you can go for free and stay as long as you would like. It is a place for everyone, and we will continue to advocate for fair funding for libraries. Just get that out at any chance I possibly can. We are up to Item 9, Officer Reports. 9.1, Communities, and 9.1.1, Community Grants 2025 Round 2. Councillor Hastwell, would you introduce this item, please?
Thanks, Mayor. Very happy to do so. So this item is to do with the purpose of the report, is to provide Council with the outcomes of the Community Grants Program 2025 Round 2 and to outline the assessment process undertaken by Council officers for the allocation of funds. And I'd like to move that Council notes the allocation of funding for Community Grants Program 2025 Round 2, being 16 applications for a total allocation of $42,953.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Do I have a seconder?
A second.
Councillor Hayden, is there any opposition? No? Then I will ask Councillor Hastwell, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you. Community grants is one of those areas that Council does on an ongoing basis. The 2025 community grants has 2 rounds. So this is the second round after an allocation some months ago. And I just wanted to highlight really the significance of these monies and the way that a lot of our community groups come together to identify what kind of equipment or what kind of support or what kind of projects are really going to help them to sustain and further develop in areas that are of interest and need across the community. It's great to see the quality of applications and also the breadth of applications. Many of these community groups, of course, have a strong volunteering base. Many of them engage with members of the community who really need these ways of connecting physical, mental, social, environmental and cultural well-being are served by these projects. It's interesting also to see that many of the applications demonstrate an understanding of how equipment and physical resources might seem quite modest in a sense, but they're really vital to these groups and communities so that they continue their activities and reap the benefits of sport and recreation, arts and culture, community activity. Tourism is even in there this time, heritage and environment. I'd also just like to note the efforts, the effectiveness, I think too, of our officers in their advice and information to groups who are seeking feedback on their ideas before they put their applications in. And I think this is really borne out by the fact that so many of those applications, 16 out of 17 applications, were successful. So that means they've met the criteria. The assessment has shown that they're good, sound projects and deserve to be funded by Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. I lost my page. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll just speak now, just to endorse Councillor Hastwell's comments and to note that although $42,953 is not a huge sum of money in comparison to other budget line items, it's an incredibly important part of Council's commitment to the community. As Councillor Hastwell noted, it's an impressive range of projects that are being funded here. And just like to add that these relatively small sums of money, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, can make an extraordinary difference in the life of community organisations and to individuals. And I want to congratulate the people and organisations who have applied for and been funded, and also acknowledge the work of Inclusive Communities Coordinator Shana Cropley and Director of Healthy Communities Lisa Knight for their work and their directorate's work on this. This is kind of, in many ways, the heart of how we can engage with community organisations, and so I commend this motion to the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll?
Thanks, Mayor. When I'm out and about, I always recommend these grants to the community groups, and I think all other councils do the same thing. And there are some community groups who are switched on and regularly do this. So I sort of reach out to other community groups who aren't necessarily that active to look at this. The 2025-26 annual budget, the community grants program, we adopted a budget of $100,000, which is split into 2 rounds. And council officers spoke to, I think, 38 community groups and individuals from April through to July to discuss the applications. And if the application form seems to be daunting to you, give them a call because they'll help you through it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly in endorsing the other comments and that it's an excellent way of council being able to small support, but to community organisations that help them. I noticed 2 of them are for defibrillators, which in fact are communities asking for a grant that hopefully is not for them, but is there for an emergency to help someone else. So that's a very nice altruistic move as well.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Councillor Hastel, you have a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to my fellow councillors for your comments as well. I think we could talk about this one for a long time because even though they are quite small grants, the stories behind them are fascinating. In many cases, I'm tossing up whether I should highlight any or not because it's really hard, isn't it, to say this? These were particularly of interest and potentially leave some others out. But I did just perhaps for really more examples rather than saying that these were the outstanding ones. But there's been a couple there who really highlight and promote the inclusion of women, which is great to see. So the North Castlemaine Cricket Club, who are establishing a women's cricket team fully funded within the club. So making participation in cricket more accessible for women, I think is a fabulous example. Another one from Malden, Athenaeum Library, which is a volunteer-run library. And that, I know that library works extremely hard and there's a great effort that goes in there from the community. And again, relatively modest request and looking at providing new reading opportunities for key sectors in the local community, including men, and those that are isolated or lonely and those in difficult economic circumstances. So in, I think, some ways really backing up your comments, Mayor, around the importance of libraries and the way that they offer such a diverse range of opportunities for people in our communities. So again, this notion of groups working together. I know that the library is also consulting with the Men's Shed community group, so it brings together different parts of the community. There are some environmental, weed management, a whole range of great initiatives. And once again, congratulations and appreciation really for those groups who do this work and take the time and the effort to write their applications. For people who might be interested in more detail, I'd also just like to, we don't always do this, but I'd like to commend the report, the officer's report, which I found particularly easy and accessible and engaging to read through. It's not terribly long, but if you are interested, it's really worth delving down into it a little bit more. So again, thanks to officers and in particular to Inclusive Communities Coordinator, Shana Cropley.
Thank you, Councillor. And thank you all councillors for your contributions. All that being said, I will put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Fantastic. And just to echo sentiments of councillors, I think this is it's always such a good news story when we note the community grants and the event grant programs, because it is relatively small amounts of money, but as was said, it makes a huge difference to these local community organisations. And I think more than ever, we're seeing the real range of things being asked for and funding that it would be really hard to get from somewhere else. So I feel like we play such an important role as council that we have the flexibility with these programs to fund such a wide range of things throughout the Shire. And it's always very exciting, I think, to see the impact that's made to these places and to these organisations when, you know, you go and see that they have now got a defibrillator, or you go and see a women's cricket game. Like, it's very cool that council is able to be a part of that journey for these clubs and committees. And I think it is always such a good news story. I too always spoke these to community organisations as a great way to potentially access small amounts of funding. Thank you, everyone. Item 9.1.2, Memorandum of Understanding, Mount Alexander Shire Council and Nalderun Education Aboriginal Corporation. Councillor Maddock, would you like to introduce this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the 2025 to 2029 Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the Mount Alexander Shire Council and Nalderung Education Aboriginal Corporation for adoption. Council and Nalderung, and I'll just abbreviate Nalderung Education Aboriginal Corporation to Nalderung, are aligned in a shared desire to improve the health and wellbeing of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and communities in Mount Alexander Shire. Both organisations recognise the importance of partnerships to achieve lasting outcomes. The work of Nalderung aligns with Council's strategic goals set out in the Council Plan 2025 to 2029 and Reconciliation Plan 2023 to 2026. Council provides an annual contribution through annual budget reviews and a range of in-kind supports to Nalderung under a current Memorandum of Understanding that sets out specific commitments for the ongoing relationship and cooperation between Nalderung and Council. The recommendation is that Council 1 approves the 2025 to 2029 Memorandum of Understanding between Mount Alexander Shire Council and Nalderung Educational Aboriginal Corporation, and 2 delegates authority to the Director Healthy Communities to sign the Memorandum of Understanding between Mount Alexander Shire Council and Nalderung Education Aboriginal Corporation.
And Councillor, could I just check, are you moving the recommendation?
I am moving the recommendation.
Fantastic, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Is there any opposition? No, then Councillor Maddock, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm just so impressed with the work that Nalderung do, and I'm aware that I and probably many of us only see the tip of the iceberg as to what they actually do. They were in here for a deputation a while ago, and I asked the question, what does an average week look like for you? And just the breadth of activities and services that were delivered is just phenomenal, especially for the budget that they receive and that they operate on. I was just scrolling through their last annual report, and a few paragraphs jumped out at me, which I'd just like to read, and these come from Kath Koff, Nalderung's CEO. I'm going to be honest, this year was pretty rough for us, but also for our children. At the beginning of the year, we were really unsure of where the ongoing funding of Nalderung was going to come from. We've lived in that state for nearly 15 years and we're still doing it. Nalderung has, in some shape or form, supported over 150 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children this year across Castlemaine, Maryborough, Bendigo, in primary schools, high schools and beyond. I think that's a huge success within itself. We're there for everybody, and we're still here and strong, stronger than ever. And despite the feelings of helplessness this year after the referendum, the Nalderung community, our partners, our kids and country bring about huge levels of hope. Yeah, I just think it's such a worthy thing, such a valuable thing to be supporting, and note that in supporting Nalderung, we help meet some of our obligations as committed through our council plan and through our reconciliation action plans. So on the basis of that, I'm very happy to put this motion forwards for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Nalderung Education Aboriginal Corporation, I think, is unique. We don't know of anything similar to it. We're very fortunate to have it in the Shire, and like Councillor Malik, acknowledge the work that they do. This memorandum of understanding has been quite a bit of work in progress, and certainly it's to the credit of both our team, including Director Knight and Officer Cropley, and no doubt to the Nalderong leadership that it came together. It also represents and includes a significant contribution from council to the work they do, but that's because they've done such good work and are so impressive, and I'm very happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Hastwell?
Thanks. I'd just like to emphasise the process of developing the MOU, which we understand was quite extended and very detailed in terms of really working through what is the relationship between council and Naldra, and how do we work together for those shared objectives. So well done to both Nalderun and to officers for that sort of very conscientious approach. Without going down into details, I think we were all really impressed to learn more about that. And the mutual respect and understanding that was reinforced through that process. It's often when we sit down and try and agree about things that we find out perhaps we have slightly different understandings of things, and you know, it's human nature, isn't it, to sit down and realise that you're going to have to do some work before you can you know, sign off on anything really. So well done. I think it's a really great MOU, and really proud to be part of a council that has made such a strong commitment to supporting First Nations people.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, having an MOU with Nalderong enables council officers and the Nalderong board to have a clear understanding of how the organisations will interact with each other on operational matters. For example, the MOU, it's clear when council officers could offer in-kind support or fee waivers for proposed activity or projects. Also clarifies how the organisations will assist each other in providing support, guidance, and professional advice to each other. So it becomes a two-way street, which I think is fantastic. At the strategic level, the council's relationship with Nalderong through the development of this MOU demonstrates a strong commitment to work with Nalderong and continued alignment with the commitments made by that we have made as a council in the Mount Alexander Shire Reconciliation Plan. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Then, Councillor Maddock, you have a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Mostly already said, but I will just underline and give thanks to the volunteers of Nalderong. I know, and probably including Kath Koff to some extent, there's a lot of unpaid work going on in that organisation to look after these kids and provide these services. So, so many thanks.
Thank you. All right, I will put the motion now. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. And yeah, just to pick up on that conversation, this is our second formal MOU with council. We are council with Nalderong, although we've had a pretty good relationship with them for about 13 years, and with founding members of Nalderong for over 20 now. I think it's been a journey together to get to the point that we're at now, and I think this MOU picks up on you know changes that have occurred over the last 3 years since the last MOU was adopted, and really sets good direction for that reciprocal way in which we're able to work together, because you know, we're a pretty small community here. We need to be able to offer each other that support, and I think we are very lucky to have such a capable Aboriginal organisation in the Shire that is so willing to, you know, there's such goodwill there on Nalderong's behalf, and I think there is such goodwill there on council's behalf to continue and grow that reciprocal relationship. I think it's worth noting that one of the decisions made, not through the MOU, but through our budget process earlier this year, was to increase the financial component of our support for Nalderun from $6,000 per year to $12,000 per year. And I think this is really reflective of that relationship continuing to evolve and the recognition of what we can offer each other as organisations, but also that increasingly organisations like Nalderun, which do provide immense support locally and further afield, are facing funding challenges, and council is needing to step in more and more to financially support these organisations so that they can continue. So through adopting this MOU, I feel we are really strengthening that relationship again, and we will continue to work together over the next 4 years to make sure we're making our Shire a really great place for everyone to live, and making sure our mob, particularly our young mob, are cared for and have opportunities to be their best selves, which I think is something Nalderun does better than anyone else. So it is a really nice one to adopt tonight. Okay, moving on, 9.2 natural environments and 9.2.1 roadmap to carbon neutrality 2020 to 2025 closure report. Councillor Cordy, would you introduce this item, please?
Thanks, Mayor. The roadmap to carbon neutrality 2020 to 2025, the roadmap has guided council efforts over the last 5 years to reduce operational greenhouse gas emissions and reach the target of zero net emissions by 2025. This report provides a summary of the roadmap's achievements across the 9 priority areas for action. The attached roadmap closure report provides final status updates on these areas, alongside documentation on how operational emissions reduction efforts will be continued through existing plans and strategies. And I'll move the motion. 1, that council notes the roadmap to carbon neutrality closure report and the completion of the 9 priorities for action. 2, notes the roadmap to carbon neutrality closure report will be publicly released on council's website in October 2025. 3, notes actions that are ongoing in the area of reducing greenhouse gas emissions will be taken forward through the implementation of the Climate Change Strategy 2023.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Walker, thank you. Is there any opposition? No. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, the focus on the environment over the last 10 years has been huge, and certainly when council committed to net zero or carbon neutrality by 2025, I was a little apprehensive. I thought, oh wow, this is a lot. Can we achieve this? But this report documents what's been done, and yes, there's a lot more to be done, but it's a tremendous achievement. And one of the things that I'd like to highlight is that we have a serious focus on the environment, and council considers the environment on everything we do. And yes, we only have very small resources that are totally dedicated to environment, but all council operations consider the environment with everything we do. So this is a very significant report, and we're working with local community to, like, we acknowledge we do have to purchase some carbon offsets to achieve net zero, but those carbon offsets are very responsibly purchased, and we're working with the local community to do that locally as much as possible. So I'd commend this report to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cordy. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak now?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first of 3 resolutions relating to climate change and carbon neutrality that are coming up tonight. When I stood for election, I said that I considered climate change to be the umbrella issue. It overarches everything. If we don't deal with that, then everything else falls down. I certainly endorse Councillor Cordy's comments, and he's saying we have limited resources, but this has shown a lot of dedication from the team. We know we're not going to solve it within this Shire, just as much as maybe as a country we're not going to solve it, but we have to provide leadership, and in that regard, I think we are punching above the weight. It's a very I wasn't here in 2019, but I understand, I suspect, like Councillor Cordy, I would have had trepidation about agreeing to this. And it is a credit to the team that in terms of getting council's emissions down, that they have come so far in that period of time. And I'm happy to endorse the report.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. The most effective and cost-efficient way council can act on climate change is to achieve net zero emissions is to embed it into all the council works. All council departments have a role to play in this, as acknowledged in our goal 1, which is council's climate change strategy, which states climate action is in everything we do. Embedding this into the organisation is supported by the Climate Change Leadership Group, which formed as an action group for the roadmap. The leadership group meets on a monthly basis, and it helps to ensure the responsibility of responding to and preparing for climate change is shared across the organisation. So it's lived from in every single person department in the council. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Hayden.
Thanks, Mayor. Endorsing the comments of my fellow councillors, and just to note that I welcome the positive media attention that this closure report attracted this morning on the ABC, on ABC Radio. It is a significant milestone for us. It's although it's termed a closure report, as was noted earlier, there is still more for us to do, and I look forward to moving forward. As the report sets out, as many reports set out, the process of reducing our emissions is a whole of council, or requires a whole of council approach, and this is an important part of that process. So this is not the end of that story. We'll need to keep working on this. I also note that related to this report are a number of other very important reports, and there's testament to how council has embedded climate action within all of its departments and all of its directorships. And it is. I also note as an outsider in 2019 how ambitious this seemed in 2019. So I think Councillor Cordy wasn't the only one who perhaps thought this was ambitious. I remember at the time discussing this with other residents of the Shire, and while we celebrated this ambition, there was a fair degree of scepticism, healthy scepticism, as to how this could be achieved. And it is really quite extraordinary that we've reached this point. And so I'd like to just extend my congratulations and thanks to council, executive and staff and officers who have worked so hard. Larger councils are able to employ new officers to tackle new policy areas. We don't have that kind of leeway in our budget. So often with our move towards net zero, what that's meant is that individual officers and council staff have had to take on an extra burden of work. And I, on behalf of the councillors, want to give my thanks and congratulations to the staff that have worked so hard to achieve this. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor? Councillor Maddock.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think my concerns around our claims to net zero are well known by the councillors and executive, and it'd be remiss of me not to put them on the record here. But before I do that, I concur with a lot of the comments in this room that there's been an exceptional amount of work done in this space over the last 5 years, and some really good achievements, and that come from what is an ambitious target. And I just want to highlight what some of them are. That we've achieved 100% renewable electricity supply within our organisation. We've got zero net emissions buildings, zero net emissions lighting, zero net emissions transport. That's for our internal fleets. And we've created a thriving low carbon culture within the organisation. We're also tracking progress and reporting on those results. So these are all items that are reported as closed in this progress report. There's a few more items there which I sit less comfortably with. The offsetting, the idea of offsetting is inherently problematic, but I think, as I said, when we adopted the offsetting policy, that I think we're striking the right balance there, and the benefits and the co-benefits for our community are to be commended there. Looking at our goods and services, I think we've got quite a lot of work to do there around our procurement policy to make sure that's working and that is actually driving down the emissions of our supply chains and contractors. And then lastly, with the net zero emissions on waste, I think we've got a lot more work to do there as well, particularly as the biggest reduction we're claiming there is by actually moving the processing of that outside our organisational boundary. I'd just like to quote from a guide from Sustainability Victoria called Organisational Carbon Accounting for Local Governments. It reads, "There is increasing scrutiny of sustainability claims in Australia, including net zero statements, emissions reduction targets, and the use of terms such as carbon neutral. It's now commonly understood that claims of carbon neutrality must be substantiated and supported by best practice carbon accounting. While we have so much to celebrate in our efforts to reduce our GHG emissions since 2020, I've taken strong issue with how we are using the terms net zero, zero net, and carbon neutrality. There is a conflict between our definition of net zero and those established by relevant standards, such as the guide mentioned above, Climate Active Carbon Neutral Standard for Organisations, and the GHG Emissions Analysis Protocol. These standards would all require that we account for relevant and material Scope 3 emissions, like our staff's business travel, our waste processing and transporting, and parts of our roads program, which makes sense to me because we have considerable control and choice in relation to them. Under our chosen definition, though, we consider these outside the organisation's boundary, and in case of waste, the decision to outsourcing it or outsource processing marks the single greatest claim in GHG emission reductions we are reporting. We are facing catastrophic climate change. Mount Alexander Shire Council acknowledges that we are in a climate emergency and that climate change presents an immediate and significant risk to all life on Earth and requires urgent action. We must do everything we can to reduce emissions, and we must do it very quickly. This is our obligation and responsibility to our kids and our future generations. I worry that by taking the shortest available path to net zero, that we may be contributing negatively to the kind of cultural change that we need to have, and by we, I mean us as a society need to have, and that by taking the easy routes, we will not produce the kinds of emission reductions that we need to have. And I'm talking again society-wide. I worry that our definition does not promote the ambition and responsiveness in the community and in our organisations that we need. The cost of not getting this right is terrifying. We must get our response right, and the proportional, and that it needs to be proportional, and at the very least taking responsibility commensurate with the levels of control and influence that we have as an organisation. And this is indeed one of the guiding principles of our net zero roadmap. I'll close that there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this item? No, and then I will go back to Councillor Cordy. You have a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, the report documents our progress on caring for the environment and getting to net zero. We're out of the blocks. There's still a lot more to do, but we're on the right track. So well done. A special thank you to the executive team and the officers for the work that they've done so far. A lot more to do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. And thank you everyone for your comments. That all being said, I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. Fantastic. And I think usually now would be the point that I do a little wrap up. But given that these three items are all, in my mind, the three items that we're going to talk about, this one and the two following ones, tell a bit of a story. I'm going to tell that story after the third item, if that's all right with everyone. I might talk for a little bit longer than 3 minutes, but I feel like it's a story worth telling, so I won't say any more at this time. So our second item, kind of in this three-item climate, I don't know, it's good. They're all grouped together and I like it. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Thank you, Michael. Trifecta is the word that I was looking for. It is a trifecta of climate change. 9.2.2 is the climate change strategy, progress report and annual action plan adoption. Councillor Cordy, would you like to introduce this item?
Thanks, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present progress on the climate change strategy, and introduce the 25-26 annual action plan. The climate change strategy sets the direction for Council's climate action now and into the future. It provides organisation-wide guidance for the way we operate, communicate and collaborate to achieve outcomes for and with our community and partners. Importantly, the strategy recognises and builds on our strengths and work undertaken to date. The strategy sets out 6 goals which focus on integrating climate action, supporting just and equitable transitions, enhancing our natural environment, incorporating climate into our infrastructure planning and renewal, supporting community connections, and moving toward a circular economy. And I'll move the recommendation that 1, that Council notes that Climate Change Strategy 23 to 25 financial years progress report. 2, notes the Climate Change Strategy 25-26 financial year action plan. And 3, notes the 23-25 financial year's climate change progress report and the Climate Change Action Plan 25-26 will be publicly available on Council's website. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Fantastic. Is there any opposition? All right. I will then ask Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think I've covered it, Mayor, so we'll move on, if that's okay.
No worries. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Reserve my right.
No worries. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll?
Thanks, Mayor. Whether you like it or not, climate action is certainly a high priority within our community. This is reflected on many times that I personally have spoken to members of my community, and also the community engagement and consultation findings, which most recently is in our council plan and municipal public health and wellbeing plan, where climate change and environmental sustainability were raised as a key area of concern. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this item? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight some of the achievements noted in the 2024-2025 year, which is that climate change is now considered as part of the engineering checklist for projects. A grant submission's been made to convert all the town hall gas appliances. Expression of interest has been put forward, has been called for for charging point operators to increase EV charging infrastructure in the Shire. Council grants have been promoted to local groups and organisations to assist the transition to electrification. All tenants of council facilities have been encouraged to source 100% renewable energy through participation in our VECO contract. And we're considering canopy cover and heat island effect in our landscaping. And maybe most importantly as well, we've completed the biodiversity study in Harcourt. In this year's action plan, we've committed to investigate virtual power plants or virtual energy networks, which I think has incredible potential, particularly in that area of co-benefits, particularly to help and also to help reduce climate risks amongst the Shire's most vulnerable populations. We're also looking at energy storage infrastructure at councils' emergency relief centres, and I believe we've got some of them. And we're including shade corridors where possible to the benefit of the overall strategy. And then just lastly, I just wanted to point out, I think obviously getting emissions down now needs to be a priority of our council, and that perhaps the most beneficial area we can do this is under goal 2 of the climate change strategy. It's also probably the hardest to achieve, but it's where we're committed to transit and adjust an equitable way to a zero emissions Shire. So not just the organisation, but the Shire. So that means working with the community on ways to do that. So I look forward to seeing more items in future action plans there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Maltby, you withheld your right. You're happy. Then back to Councillor Cordy. You have a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, when you look at these documents, it's a lot. There's a lot of work being done. I commend the documents to you, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in the community. But also, I'd like to acknowledge the work of some of our previous councillors. It's sort of all, and I don't want to take the Mayor's thunder here, but I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Lesser. Councillor Lesser was the one that actually got the climate emergency ball rolling at this council, but we had other wonderful councillors as well, Councillor Bronwyn Mason and Councillor Christine Henderson, to name a couple. But you know, there's been a huge amount of work done. These are very substantial reports, and I acknowledge the work of the executive team and our officers, but there's a lot, and I'm not going to cover it now. We'll be here all night, but I commend this work to you, and it's a great start. There's a lot more to do, but we're heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I will now put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Oh, and again, I'm going to talk a lot after the next one. Prepare yourselves. (9.2.3) Carbon Offsetting and Drawdown Policy Implementation Report. Councillor Walker, would you introduce this item, please?
Yes, Mayor. Council committed to achieve zero net emissions for council operations by 2025 in the Roadmap to Carbon Neutrality 2020-2025 and through the implementation and activation of the Carbon Offsetting and Drawdown Policy adopted in March 2025. This report, produced in line with Council's Carbon Offsetting and Drawdown Policy and Carbon Offsetting and Drawdown Procedure, details how Council will offset all residual carbon emissions for the 2024 calendar year, achieving the goal of zero net emissions by 2025 and with a key focus on achieving local benefits. So, proposal, Mayor, that Council 1 notes the investment in carbon offsetting and local drawdown projects that enable Council to achieve zero net emissions by 2025. 2, notes the carbon neutrality disclosure statement document, and 3, notes the carbon neutrality disclosure statement document will be made public on Council's website following investment.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Fantastic. Is there any opposition?
Only that I'd like to propose an amendment to this motion, if possible, Mayor.
All right. Would you like to propose the amendment now?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It's to add an additional point, which would be, so to be an additional point 5, to commit to produce, I might have caused confusion because I did intend to put this through in the last one, but forgot to, so I'm putting it through in this one here. And because this has four points already, I'm adding it as the
We've
fifth.
got on the agenda in front of me, it has 3 points under the motion.
Sorry for the confusion. Okay.
So is it point 4?
Point 4, yep. Commit to producing a report to be considered by councillors by May 2026, outlining opportunities and their feasibility of maximising and expediting current greenhouse gas emission reduction activities and commitments, identifying and itemising all material Scope 3 emission sources currently outside Council's carbon accounting boundary, and noting these under current and future exclusions sections in our voluntary carbon neutral disclosure statement.
Thank you, Councillor. So the proposed amendment is an additional point 4 to the motion with the text just read by Councillor Maddock. So I'm going to ask the mover and seconder of this motion if they are prepared to support the amendment.
Noting it doesn't quite fit, but I would accept it, yes.
And the seconder?
For the sake of the debate, yeah, I'll accept this.
All right. So with the acceptance by the mover and the seconder of the initial motion, the amended motion becomes the substantive motion. That is a motion with 4 points, including the one proposed by Councillor Maddock. That is a substantive motion now. We are debating that motion. All right. That being said, we are going back to the original mover. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak to the amended motion, which is now the substantive motion?
I will attempt to, yes. The original motion itself is simply recording what we've achieved to date. It is quite detailed. There is a lot of technical information in there, but it's evidence of the amount of work that has been done by the team to date, to their credit, and it's something that specialists can, look at and work through. The amendment, there has been a lot of discussion prior to getting here. It probably does remain a bit contentious, but it is acknowledging, asking the team, giving them 6 or 7 months to come up with a report for council to start progressing, and we know they're already doing it, on Scope 3 emissions particularly, and those that are falling outside council's carbon boundaries. And at that point, which would be just sort of prior to the end of this financial year, council can look at that, it can assess it. I think we've acknowledged that we already have done a lot of work, but there is much more to be done. So basis of that report, in what position are we to go further? I understand it probably should have been the resolution before, but we'll take it in this one because it's something that helps us to plan what we can do within our resource availability.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right, thanks.
No worries. I think given you moved the amendment, I'll go to Councillor Maddock next.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for considering this and for engaging in some workshopping of this. Look, I think the lasting impression that I have coming out of this process is that we really need to be acting critically to reduce emissions. Really, for the sake of environmental outcomes, it doesn't really matter whether they're in the organisation or outside the organisation, but we really as a society, we need to be bringing them down, and we need to be bringing them down really quickly. We have some good commitments already, and we have some good projects in train already. I guess I have some concerns about a perception of projects or ambitions stalling for whatever reason, and I understand that there's probably good reason for that. That's not a criticism. So by putting this forwards, it's really about leaning on the expertise of the officers here and their understandings of the projects that have been previously committed to highlight and help guide council in making some strategic choices about what we move forwards with. It doesn't go quite, and so a bit of a correction, is not as specific as what Philip Walker mentioned around scope 3 emissions. It's leaving it with officers there to make those recommendations to us. It may well be that, but they may choose not to do that as well. The point relating to scope 3 emissions is really about transparency in our voluntary carbon neutral disclosure statement, in that we would just be listing those material and relevant scope 3 emissions that we're choosing not to include and account for. It may provide a future roadmap for ways to bring emissions down. There may be lower hanging fruit elsewhere that may be more advantageous for us to pursue. So this is really, my intention here is hopefully to speed up some already good things that are happening, and making sure that our efforts are focused in the best possible place. And I hope that'll be supported by my councillor colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. First, I want to start by saying we all care about this issue. We're united in wanting real action on emissions, and we've made a strong commitment through our roadmap to carbon neutrality. So this isn't about who's more committed to climate action. It's how we do it in a clear and practical way. Councillor Matic, in his first statement, said he was meant to do it the previous before. I think making resolutions and amendments on the fly is really fraught in danger. So I think councils need to think about that, because practically every new reporting obligation has a cost. If council wants to revisit certification and expand the scope of what we measure, that's a conversation for another day, with a proper process. And that's it. I'll just say that again, with a proper process and a clear plan.
Just a point of order, Mayor, on a correction there. I'm not calling for certification, and I don't think that should be considered as part of this.
So for me, I think this amendment...
Hang on, Councillor Driscoll, I've just got a rule on that point of order. I'll accept that you're not calling for certification. That's good. All right, please continue, Councillor Driscoll.
No problem. Thank you. I asked the question previously, the cost of this. I still don't understand the cost of this extra reporting. Every time you ask for something else to do, it takes away the officer's time and costs more money to do something else. So I think for me to understand this and accept and to support this, I would need to know the cost of the time, as we would do in a normal situation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Councillor Cordy.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I share concerns with the amended motion. Like, clearly points 1, 2 and 3 of the original motion they're basically making public a report that exists of how we've gone about our carbon offsetting, and whereas the fourth point of in the amended motion now requires further work, and in fact another report or work into the future. So I think we've sort of we've complicated the issue a little bit, and yeah, I'm a bit concerned about it, because I don't think this is the right forum to work through that. But notwithstanding that, I think the way we're achieving net zero does need to be made public. So yeah, we'll probably work on that basis. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak at this time? Councillor Maltby?
Thanks, Mayor. I would agree with the other two councillors in their comments.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Hastwell.
Really respect the comments from all of the councillors, and again very much backing Councillor Driscoll's opening statement that this is an issue that I think we can recognise all of the councillors are very committed to. There are possibly different perspectives on how that is progressed at times. My understanding and taking on board that we haven't really had time to drill down into the exact amount of resources that would be required for the additional report. But my understanding is that much of the data is available and or currently being collected. So my position would be based on an understanding that it's not a significant additional amount of resourcing that we're talking about. Thank you.
All right, I'm just taking a moment to look around the room. I think we're going back to Toby. Sorry, Councillor Hayden. You have reserved your right. You can speak now.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, and thanks, councillors, for your views. This is really, I think you're quite right, Matt, that we're all very committed to doing whatever we can to reduce emissions, and that the path that the council's been on the last 6 years is testament to that. Not just us, of course, but critically, as Councillor Cordy pointed out, the council before last and the council before us. I also support broadly the criteria that Councillor Maddock has put forward here. I don't have any issue with those, any one of those criterion. My concern is that I think we all acknowledge that the three reports that we are noting tonight are all none of them are a closure, as it were. That we throughout the reports there is repeated reference to the ongoing work that we need to commit to in this space. I would rather. And while I acknowledge the criteria that Councillor Maddock has set out in his amended fourth point here, I would think it preferable to leave it with council officers to suggest to us their thoughts on the way forward. This could take up valuable time in the next 4 or 5 months that I've no doubt that council executive and officers, managers, coordinators have their own ideas on how, on where to from here, on what the next steps would be. So while I've got no dispute or argument with any of these individual points that Councillor Maddock raises, I would rather leave it with the organisation to propose where we go from here, and then we can have our due consideration to those points. I think that's a more I think that system would acknowledge due process better than directing the organisation to embark on a particular course of action before we've even heard or had a briefing from council, other than, of course, these fine reports. I'd also just quickly, though, like to shout out Brendan Garrett for his work on this, Climate Change Coordinator, noting that Brendan's been responsible for pulling together these 3 of these. And also note that in the carbon offsetting and drawdown policy, you'll note that we have a range of local projects that we've been able to draw down and offset our carbon emissions with. And to name some of those, Yimby Growing Abundance, the Steiner School Wetlands Project, and the Campbell Street Primary School Guildford campus. And these are all fantastic local projects that, and I know Councillor Maddock wasn't suggesting certification, but because of the path that we've chosen, that this council has chosen, we've been able to invest in very local responses And I just wanted to make a mention of those excellent projects. My own daughter has been involved in one of those, and I hear about it firsthand about how valuable it is. This kind of more holistic approach to climate change, embedding climate change action in our schools, in our public institutions, in our public life, has been one of the successes of the last 5 or 6 years of this Shire's climate action. I just want to draw a particular reference to that. So yeah, that's all for me. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, councillors.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, everyone. And thank you all for participating in the debate around this item. Everyone has had a go. I've ticked all my boxes. So I'm going to put... What? Whoops, I had not, in fact, ticked all my boxes. Councillor Walker, you have another go.
It puts me in a challenging position. It should have come up when it should have. I certainly take on board all the comments. And first of all, again, respecting and acknowledge everybody is committed to dealing with climate change, and also it could have and perhaps should have been a better process to get us to this point. And given the hesitations expressed, but we can't just now withdraw the amendment, can we? It has to go through. We got a vote, yeah. I would take on board what Councillor Hastrell said, that the discussions indicated that it wasn't such an odious, you know, the huge amount of work for council officers to prepare this report over the time frame, which then helps give us some direction to sit down and discuss what's going next. I take it the first 3 points, there's not contentious at all because they're just reporting. It's the issue of the amendment. And I would think within that framework, acknowledging certainly the work done, but from the discussions when it was seen, it was not too onerous to prepare that report given the time frame. It was acceptable to accept the amendment, and this would give us a way forward, and therefore I continue to recommend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Walker, and apologies. Now I have crossed all my T's. So now, with all that being said, I will put the motion. All in favour and opposed? Motion is lost. Does anyone have another motion? Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Driscoll? Is there any opposition? No. Then Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak to the motion?
The discussion we've had in the last 5 minutes supports what the motion is.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Driscoll, you seconded it. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right? No worries. All right, other councillors, noting we have spoken to this, if there is anything further that you would like to say, would anyone like to speak? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to underline my my previous comments, that I think the drawdown, the carbon emission drawdown, has some really good benefits for our community. And I said that back when the policy was adopted earlier this year. And I just wanted to underline one concern that I have with this motion, and I'm not calling for more amendments, don't worry, which is just around the wording of our carbon neutrality disclosure statement at attachment 9.3.1. And I just have some concerns that this doesn't give a complete picture of our decision making around our choice to not be certified. And that while I absolutely respect that we're a small organisation and that the cost of administrating certification can be overly onerous, and that it's better that we put these funds into community projects, it overlooks the fact that we also decoupled ourselves from meeting that certification standard as well. And in that, we've made substantial savings, for instance, by not counting some of our scope 3 emissions. So just for the sake of transparency and completeness, I would like to underline those. But otherwise, yeah, I support the carbon offsetting. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Cordy.
I think we're getting there, Mayor. Good save.
Thank you for your contribution. Any other councillor wish to speak at this time? All right, Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak now?
Thanks, Mayor. I thought we weren't talking about certification, but obviously we were. I just want to thank the Climate Change Coordinator, Brendan. I think he did a great job. Thanks, councillors. We all, I respect where Councillor Maddox coming from. I just think that more work needs to be going into his motion. But I think we're working as hard as we can down that track, and thanks for the support.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Maltby, you have a right of reply.
I'm fine, thanks.
No worries. All right, thank you again, everyone, for participating in the debate. I will now put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Whew. All right, now it's my turn. All right, so look, I half prepared and then I didn't. So I had to stop preparing and go and do something else. So I've got half a story written and the rest I'm going to make up as I go along, but I'm going to do as good a job as I can. So what I really wanted to talk about is, yeah, this is to me a story, and I think it was mentioned before that using the word end or closure is a bit misleading, even though it is in the names of one of the reports, because it is more like a touch point on a journey. It is not the end of anything. It is just progress, right? It is us saying we did something that a previous council committed to doing. And what I'm hearing from, Councillor Cordy, you are the one remaining councillor from that time when the climate declaration was declared, and you were trepidatious about it. I've talked to other councillors from that time. There was trepidation. It was a big thing. So we're going to go all the way back to 2019 when, and it is a good story. It is a good story, I promise. So in 2019, we were facing this very real climate emergency, and there was a lot of movement across the country, across the world, to do more, and for organisations and for governments to do more, and for people in communities to do more. In our home shire, there was a lot of movement, particularly through a community organisation called Mount Alexander Climate Emergency Team, or MASSET. Is the C a soft C or a hard C? MASSET, I'm hoping. So we've always had a community that advocated for more to be done. My whole life growing up here and living here, I knew that there was a very sustainable, environmental focused portion of our community. And I feel that that has only risen over time. So in 2019, at the December meeting of council, so coming up to 6 years ago, this council, not this council here, but a council sitting, I assume, in this room, doing exactly what we're doing tonight, made the decision to declare a climate emergency. They became one of under 100 councils at that time across Australia to have made that declaration, which is a really exciting thing to be a part of. We were part of that big wave of, elevating this emergency to the next level. Prior to this climate declaration, MASSET particularly, several MASSET and community members spoke during public time at the October 2019 meeting, urging council to declare a climate emergency. And Mr. Robbins, I think you may have been one of those people. And they also at that time submitted a community petition asking for the same. This petition at the time had 1,644 signatures. And when it was resubmitted again in December of that year, it had 2,390 signatures. That is a huge amount of our community. And if you were here at the time, you'll remember, like I do, the signs being everywhere, this business supports council, listening to its community and declaring a climate emergency. This household, it was this school. I remember it spreading through the community. It was it was a really special thing to witness. I was not at that time in a place where I was able to be a part of that movement, but I remember it happening around me, and I remember really feeling that power of community. And then the very real excitement when Council responded at the December 2019 meeting. Councillor Machin moved a notice of motion to declare a climate emergency, and it was carried. And there was more to it than that. It was not just a one-point motion. There is a lot to that motion, and I really encourage you to go back and read what that motion was and the commitments made by Council, because there is more to it. And I think that is why the idea of this being the end of this journey is impossible, because we have committed to more. And I think by embedding the work that we do to address climate change into the organisation, the way it has been done since 2019, we are positioning ourselves to be able to continue to do this forever. I don't think there is a going backwards from here. I think it is all forwards and bigger and better. So these petitions were submitted, but before the decision was made, and this I really want to speak to a little bit, because I think it was another very special moment in our Shire's history. So to prepare for a decision around declaring a climate emergency and what that might mean for council, councillors held an all-day open briefing to community. Tony, you would have been around for that. I've heard you speak about it. I've heard Councillor Henderson speak about it, former Councillor Henderson. 49 people spoke that day, representing local organisations and businesses, or just representing themselves. And there are an additional 91 written submissions. These are all available on the council website. And when I first ran for council and then realised I was going to be elected, I didn't know very much about climate change. I felt ill-prepared. And I remember speaking to someone whose opinion about climate I respected a lot, and they directed me to go to the council website and to read those 91 submissions. And I did. And it was actually life-changing for me, because it was during that process of reading the submissions that I had my own personal aha moment when it came to climate change, and realised that I had been scared for a very long time to do anything because it felt too big. And it was a very powerful thing to happen. So I can only imagine what it was like to have people speak that stuff to you. So all of this informed this decision that was made in 2019, almost 6 years ago. Part of that was to develop and implement a roadmap that will lead to zero net carbon emissions for council operations by 2025. And another aspect of the motion was to develop a new climate strategy. The previous climate strategy, 2016 to 2020, was about to run out. So what happened the next year? It was COVID. Everything took a little bit of a hit. Council had to change directions rapidly to respond to what was happening. And I think we all learned how to use Zoom very quickly. Again, I was not part of this story yet. I'm just on the outside, kind of looking on in awe at what is being achieved. But what happened in 2020 in August was that Council adopted this document. This is the roadmap to carbon neutrality. And this is the closure report that we've seen and noted today. This report set out the actions that Council would undertake to be carbon neutral by 2025, this year. And I remember reading this document, and just like other councils have expressed, I felt trepidation about it, because what if Council failed? What would that mean? What would that mean for the trust that we are building with our community? And I remember when I was elected, talking to my CEO and being like, is this possible? Can we do this? And he was like, yes, of course we can. It's going to be hard, but we can do this because we have committed to doing it. So it feels very special to be here today, closing this off, not in an ending way, which is hard because it is a closure report, but in a way that says this portion of our journey that was, started back in 2019, we are closing this portion because we are looking ahead. We're not looking backwards. We know where we've come from. We know how bad it was. And we know how bad it could still get if we don't continue to act. What came through next? I'm almost done, I promise. What came through next? Oh no, I've got too many bits of paper. It was the climate strategy, the climate change strategy, which was adopted, it's under here, in 2023. And this was another thing committed to in the climate emergency declaration. So we have a climate change strategy. What you will notice about this document, it does not have an end date on it. This document goes until it is superseded by something else, but it is a commitment to continually work towards reducing the effects of climate change. And I think through this document and through then also as attachments to this meeting, you'll see we have our progress reports, we have our action plans. This is how we make sure that that work is embedded throughout the organisation, throughout the ways that we can influence and interact with community, noting that we cannot control what people do. People so much of the time want council to dictate how people live their lives here. We can't do that. We have influence. There are some things we can say, you can't park there, or you have to put your dog on a leash. But we cannot tell people that they have to take climate change as seriously as we know that everyone needs to. We can influence what we can. And what we are doing, I feel, is owning, we're cleaning our side of the street, right? And all we can do, that is what we can control. We can clean our side of the street. And we've done a really incredible job of that. And I feel a lot of pride about what council has done, and especially the ways that council has worked with community and has chosen to invest locally in projects that we know are impactful in our community and to us. Projects like Yimby, projects at the schools. I think that is incredible. And I can see how bit by bit us delivering on these commitments that we make is building that trust and building that hope, because I think now what people need is that trust and that hope. And I hope that by showing that we are able to do this thing that many councillors at the time thought was out of their reach, I understand that that there may be sentiments that it is not good enough and that we could be better, but I'm a big believer in progress, not perfection. I feel that rushing to perfection or criticising things because they are not perfect is not the right way to approach, especially things like this where we all need to be part of the story. I feel very proud tonight about all of this. I feel very proud. I feel like we are honouring the legacy of the council before us, of which I was a part, and the council before us. I feel like we are honouring community members who sacrificed a lot of time and energy and passion to bring that broad awareness to this issue and to convince the council of the time that this was the right thing to do. So I'm sorry that I've taken a little bit of time, but I feel really very deeply about this work, and particularly because I'm only just starting my own journey with it, and I'm learning what I can and can't control as a citizen of the world, as a citizen of our shire. I'm also honoured enough to be the mayor of this council at the time, and I feel very proud to be bookending some of this legacy of the 2019 council, and to be able to speak to it tonight is a real pleasure and an honour. So thank you all for your contributions as we've discussed these items. I'm sorry I've taken up a little bit of time, but it really has helped me to be able to say this stuff, and I feel very thankful to every single person who has informed this work, community members and local organisations, to all the councillors, over 3 councils who have supported this work, to our climate change officers over the many years. We've had different people in the roles, and to that entire team for the incredible work that they're doing in this space and that I know they will continue to do. I think that's it. Thank you very much, and for allowing me to have that little bit of extra time as to speak as well. No applause necessary. I'll feel embarrassed, but thank you. And people up the back, I feel like you may be here for a planning item. Thank you for your patience. We are up to 9.3 infrastructure and 9.3.1 planning application PA 038/2025, 69 Lewis Road, Maldon. So I'm going to ask Councillor Walker, could you introduce this item?
Yes, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to enable council to decide an application for a 2-lot subdivision at 69 Lewis Road, Maldon. It's been referred to council due to a number of complexities identified by the Statutory Planning Department. The proposal is that council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for PA 038/2025 for a 2-lot subdivision at 69 Lewis Road, Maldon, subject to the conditions as tabled. I'm not going to read them all, there's 5 pages, but they're pretty standard ones just around formalisation of the subdivision, certification, easement crossovers, power, sewerage, telecommunications, etc. So conditional upon those being met, the CFA approval, those sorts of things. The proposal is to grant the permit as applied for.
All right, we're just giving governance a minute. Ideally, we would have this motion able to be put up on the screen, and I think we may be working on it. Otherwise, we are left with the unenviable task of having to read the entire thing out. So I might just give the team 1 minute just to see what is possible. And you've got it up? Fantastic, thanks so much. So thank you, Councillor. We don't have anything to put it up on. There's no screen behind me. It's on YouTube, and that is the main thing. And it will also be available in the minutes. So thank you, Councillor Walker. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hastwell, is there any opposition? Fantastic. Councillor Walker, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor. I'll be brief. It was an interesting application. The area would probably describe a bit as sort of peri-urban or semi-rural. It's agriculture, and there were concerns around changing that agriculture position, but then it was also recognised that the house was already existing there. There was a little subdivision that didn't seem to make much sense. So there was a lot of discussion around this and how we can accommodate it, noting that housing is a priority here. I think coming out of those discussions that council got to a very good point, noting that it's a notice of decision to grant, that somebody could still object to it to VCAT, but there hasn't been any to date. I trust and hope we're in agreement that this will now be able to proceed. Thank you.
I'm just going to call for a quick clarification from potentially the acting CEO. Could you just clarify the last point Councillor Walker made about objections and VCAT?
Thank you, Mayor. So the point of objecting to VCAT is not possible yet because there has been no decision to make a notice to issue or not issue a permit. However, as per all planning matters, there are opportunities for community to raise concerns at this point in time, and I believe there was none for this within the community for this matter. However, if depending on the outcome of the decision of the council debate today, there are still opportunities in the future, but that's where we are.
Thank you, Acting CEO. Councillor Hastwell, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to speak now. And I also won't speak too extensively, but just similarly to Councillor Walker's outline, I support this motion. I respect the officer's work behind this and the thorough process that's been applied here. And at the same time, I feel that the reality of the situation is that there are two existing dwellings that can continue to be used with what I believe is fundamentally an appropriate subdivision of lands in accord with the existing dwellings and use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the applicants for reaching out and giving us some background on this. I've given it a lot of consideration, and there's this one point that's in the officer recommendations that's really stuck with me, which is going to probably inform my decision. I think, and that is, and I really take the point that this title has two lots on it, and the result of this decision will be that it still has two lots in it. So it's the what do we call them? One lot's taking over another, and we're creating a new one in the existing lot. But I just noting that lot is of a size that wouldn't be recommended for a dwelling to be built on, if that were the case. And I worry that you essentially have it's a rural living property essentially, because there's not a farm attached to it, completely surrounded essentially by someone else's farm. And while it's in the family, I wouldn't perceive any issues with that. The future use of that for hopefully hundreds of years, there'll be all sorts of people potentially living in that farmhouse, and that it does produce a potential conflict of land use where you have people trying to live and you have someone running a farm next door, and that may in the future limit the agricultural value or the use of that property as a farm. And I think that's and I've got the technicalities written down here, but that's in the the original officer recommendation. So for this reason, I won't be supporting this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Maltby.
Councillor Walker and Councillor Hastwell are right. There's many pieces of land throughout the whole Shire that's zoned farming that shouldn't be. And this is one of them.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor. In considering this application, I've looked carefully at both the planning framework and the very specific circumstances of this site. This is not a proposal for a greenfield subdivision, additional housing or residential sprawl. It is a straightforward boundary realignment around two long-standing dwellings on an 83-hectare farm. The excised area is modest, around 5 acres, and the balance of over 200 acres remains as a productive farmland. All relevant referral authorities, including the CFA, Goulburn, Murray Water and Collingwood Water, have either consented or raised no objections. There has been no objections from the community, and the bushfire management plan and infrastructure compliance have been addressed. We've also received a clear and heartfelt statement from the landowners who have lived on this land for generations. They are not seeking to subdivide for development, but simply to place two existing homes on separate titles to provide for two adult children, the fourth generation, to live on this farm. Importantly, the farming operations is set up with laneways and infrastructure that mean that the realignment won't impact farm management, nor will it increase the residential density or alter the character of the land. The planning scheme gives us discretion in these matters, and in my view, this application respects both the strategic intent of the farming zone and the reality on the ground. A refusal would not protect farmland further, but it would deny a farming family a practical and reasonable way to plan for their future. On that basis, I believe this proposal strikes the right balance between protecting agricultural land and supporting the local family's long-term stewardship of it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Then I will go back to Councillor Walker for a right of reply.
Councillor Driscoll's far more eloquent than me, and I certainly endorse his comments. And as we're saying, it's not putting in a new housing development, it's not even putting in a new house, it's just realigning around existing property, existing premises. So I trust it's endorsed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, everyone. I will now put the motion. All in favour and opposed? Motion is carried. So we will, officers will be in touch after this meeting to follow up with you about what happens next. Thank you very much. At 9.4 Wellbeing Economies, we have no items today. At 9.5 Organisation and 9.5.1 Mount Alexander Shire Council Annual Report 2024 to 2025. Councillor Maddock, would you introduce this item, please?
Yeah, pleasure, Mayor. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, one sec. I'm having a technology breakdown. Lucky I've got hard copies.
Do you need to borrow an agenda?
Someone could pass me agenda, that'd be great.
Thank you, Director.
So 9.5.1 Mount Alexander Shire Council Annual Report 2024 to 2025. Executive summary. The purpose of this report is to present the Mount Alexander Shire Council Annual Report 2024 to 2025 to Council for adoption. The annual report 2024 to 2025 is a key instrument in fulfilling Council's statutory obligations under the Local Government Act 2020. It provides a transparent accounting of performance, governance and financial stewardship, ensuring compliance with legislative requirements. Beyond compliance, the report highlights and celebrates Council's ongoing achievements in delivering strategic objectives and essential services that strengthen community wellbeing, resilience and sustainability. And I move the motion that Council adopts the Mount Alexander Shire Council Annual Report 2024-2025.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder?
Second, Matt.
Thank you, Councillor. Any opposition? No. Then Councillor Maddock, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, flicking through, this touches on so many things that have happened in the last year, both in the activities of the council and councillors, and then just the sort of scope of activities in the Shire. It's really impressive. A couple of things have stood out for me. I just want to mention the awards. Our Shire were the winner of the Economic Development Australia, Economic Development Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Award, and that's for our economic strategy with the focus on the wellbeing economy. So I think there's a wonderful amount of work in there. And also our winner of the LG Pro Award, Community Assets and Infrastructure Projects under 5 million, which was for the redevelopment of the Norwood Hill Recreation Reserve and playground, which is just such an amazing space. And me and my family, although it's on the other side of town, we do get over there occasionally, and we have a really good time there. It's a really positive thing for that area. I was going to go through and highlight one thing from each month over the 12 months of this, but just for the sake of time, I think I won't, but I really recommend people at home and constituents to pick up a copy and just glance over. And it is just a summary. We do so much, and this is just a few points each month, and it really highlights the breadth and scope of the work of the council. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maddock. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Yeah, I'll speak now. Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, to endorse Councillor Maddock's points, this is a really impressive annual report. I look forward to reading it thoroughly later on. I thoroughly recommend to residents of the Shire to find a copy of this. This will be available online, and there'll be paper copies available as well. It is a really impressive overview, as Councillor Maddock says, of what the council does, and specifically for the last financial year. There is way too much in here to try and summarise any semblance of adequacy here and now, but it's heartening to see such a well-written report. It's clear language. It's as plain English as it can be for a report of this nature, and it should instill, I think, a degree of confidence in the Shires and the Shire community that we are solvent, we are hardworking in the Shire. We are progressing towards our goals that we set out in our council plan, in our annual plan, and I think the way this one's set out, the way this one's been organised, is a lot more legible than a lot of other annual reports are from other organisations that some of us have the pleasure of reading from time to time. Also note that it has some magnificent artwork from local First Nations artist Dakota Nelson, and there are so many important points that we can touch on that talk about the various strategic directions of the council and strategic objectives of the council over the last 12 months. I thoroughly commend the report. Thanks, Mayor. And huge thanks and congratulations to the team who pulled this off and brought this together, particularly Julie Landy and Amy Carmichael. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Councillor Hastwell.
Thanks, Mayor. And yes, it's an incredibly impressive document, as Councillor Hayden has pointed out. I think that for me, one of the really appealing advantages of the document is that it is highly accessible. It really speaks. It really, it's much more than presenting dry data. There's a sense of the community's voice in there. And, you know, as you flick through the choice of imagery, really, I think represents very well the breadth of our shire. One of the things I really like is page 7, which is our towns, and we've got an image of each of our towns there, and a brief description. And I think that really does justice to the geographical diversity of our shire, as well as the diversity of people that feature throughout the document. One of the other great advantages to spending so much time and putting so much care and thought into how this is presented is that I have no doubt whatsoever that this will provide a strong basis for future advocacy. It communicates broadly to our funders, to our partners, the quality of the work and the care with which we approach it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Whether that's good or bad or indifferent, I'm an avid reader of annual reports through my profession, so I read many. I think we've got a chance of, I shouldn't mock ourselves, a chance of winning the award for this. So good luck, Julie. I think it's you and your team have done a great job. Assuming we adopt this report, a digital version of the report will be available on the council's website, and hard copies will also be available for viewing at the Civic Centre, the library and the Visitor Centre. And it, what it does by having a bit of read, as other councillors have said, is that it summarises our achievements and lots of things that we do. And a lot of people whinge and moan about council. I understand that. But if you want to sit down and read all the different things we do, you can get it for this report. So I think it's a good document. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does anyone else wish to speak? All right, then back to Councillor Maddock. You've got a right of reply. You're all good? All right. Thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? Yay. We have adopted our annual report. I will not speak too much because I know I already did. It is, look, these are great. I think over the time I've been on part of council, it's been a real drive to make them more accessible, to make them more community focused. And I think the team is just doing such an incredible job of, again, telling a bit of a story about the last year of council, which, you know, we all know and we all experience that there is an amount of negativity towards council at times. And this is such a good news document. I think it really effectively is able to touch on so many of the ways that we do good within the community, and the impact that we have over just 1 year, and the fact that we put out this document each year. It's a really special thing. I love the design. I think the case studies that are included towards the front are really effective. I love the month by month breakdown of different bits and pieces that we've been doing. I think, it's a really fantastic document, and a real credit to the team, and also to council for doing, such good things, and, really taking the time to put together this document that explains pretty clearly what we are doing, and what we have done, and why it matters. I think that's a really important thing to share. One of my favourite photos of me ever is included in the annual report on page 67. It was from memory, it was at the the kind of jobs fair where you got to go and lots of students were there, and people just like me considering different careers. This is in my brain. What you cannot see is me deciding whether I want to chuck in the mayoral life and become a concreter or a tiler, because I was having an incredible time laying tiles, and this gentleman standing next to me who was instructing me on how to do it said I was a natural. So I know from that I have my next career path sorted. I think it's a fantastic document. There will be limited hard copies available at council because obviously all this climate work, we are trying to reduce the amount of hard copy things we have. It is available. It will be available in full after this meeting, at which we have adopted this on our website for anyone to view and to get the pleasure of reading what council has been up to over the last year. No, I missed one, sorry. We are up to 9.5.2, Annual Plan 2024 to 2025 Progress Report for Q4. Councillor Hayden, would you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so Annual Plan 2024-25 Progress Report Q4. This report provides an update on the status and progress of projects in the 2024-2025 Annual Plan to the end of June 2025. And I move that Council notes the Annual Plan Progress Report 2024-2025 Q4.
Fantastic. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any opposition? Fantastic. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the Annual Plan 2024-25 outlines the actions for the 2024-25 financial year that will be implemented as priorities from the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. So that's the Council Plan that is just closing. The quarterly progress report is prepared each quarter to inform councillors and the community on progress against agreed actions in the Annual Plan. So this is the final quarter report for the last year of the previous of the 2021 to 25 council plan. The quarterly report provides an update on the status of each project, its progress towards completion, the date completed, if completed, which can be compared to the target completion date, and an overall comment. As this is the final financial year of the Council Plan 21 to 25, any actions that are not completed by the 30th of June 2025 will need to be considered as part of the Council Plan 25 to 29 if they are to continue beyond 30th of June 2025. And like all reports brought to us from Manager of Finance Keith Caldwell, under the direction of Director of Corporate Services Julie Landy. This is a clear, very legible report, and I'm happy to note that our the projects listed off in this plan accord with what was set out, and we remain on track. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak now? Would you like to reserve your right? Fantastic. Other councillors, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. This is the report that you can look at, and it keeps the council honest because it tells you what they've been doing. They all got 100% except for one, which wasn't, and it's a bit of a laugh, actually. I shouldn't say that, but because of a planning permit. But yeah, there you go. Thanks, Mayor. Sorry.
That's all right. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. Now you've got me worried that one of the ones I'm going to speak about didn't achieve 100%, and I'm wondering which one it is. I just wanted to, it is very satisfying seeing all the completions on these, and I just wanted to list quickly what actually I can't remember if I've got the whole list or just some of them, but Customer First Strategy Framework adopted, Planning Scheme Review, Authorisation received for exhibition, completion of the Campbell's Creek Walking and Cycling Trail, My Aged Care Specialisation, awarded in June. Carbon offset strategy adopted, Wesleyan Church refurbishment completed, annual playground renewal, Fryers Town completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Back to you, Councillor Maltby. You're okay? Councillor Hayden, you have a right of reply.
It's okay. Thanks, Mayor. I think we've covered it. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. And I think without speaking too much, as I want to do, significantly, as mentioned before, this kind of brings to an end the previous council plan from 21 to 2025. This is our last progress report, Q4. It is a bit of an ending, but again, as with all council endings, it is also the beginning of something new. We have a new council plan, which we're excited to work on over the next 4 years. And I think, you know, these progress reports come through every quarter. Each year we have an annual plan, and those items are taken from the council plan and informed also by the community vision, the municipal public health and wellbeing plan, and other pieces of work. And it is really exciting to me still to see them be completed. And I know that it's such a basic thing to be excited about, really, but there is something so enjoyable about not just kind of ticking off a task and going like 100%, yay, we did it, but what the tasks, what the actions mean. And I mean, there are such a lot of standouts. I don't have my paper in front of me, but I think there are a couple on here, particularly that have been kind of not on the back burner, but have kind of been in the back of our minds for a really long time. And I'm talking about things like the Campbells Creek walking and cycling trail, which, you know, have kind of they've been hanging around, and it's not because we didn't want to do something about it. It was around resourcing. It was around not being the right time, not having access to the right funding streams, or just, you know, needing to spend resources elsewhere because there were other priorities. And I think the commitments made by the previous council, by the previous council, by this council again, are really ensuring that some of these projects that, you know we want to do, but haven't been able to, are resourced so that they can be completed. And I feel like particularly I'm highlighting the Campbells Creek Trail because it was just such an exciting thing to achieve that one. And there is such a lot of other actions on this that are fantastic, but that is the one I'm choosing to pick out because of the amount of work it was and the amount of joy that I felt, particularly on that day when it was opened and the community gathering and the frogs and the platypuses. It was just a really good example of why investing in things like that, even though it is hard, even though it takes a long time, it has such a powerful impact in our community. And I think the annual plan progress reports as they come through really show us that, you know, it can take some time to do things, but we will get there and we can get there. And that's quite exciting. (9.5.4) Adoption of Financial Plan 2025 to 2035. Councillor Cordy, would you introduce this item, please?
Thanks, Mayor. The Financial Plan 25 to 2035 details the financial resources required to deliver the activities that Council proposes to undertake over the next 10 years. The financial plan will guide future strategies and actions of Council to ensure that the organisation continues to operate in a financially sustainable manner. The financial plan has been developed using prudent financial sustainability assumptions and guidelines. Planning for long-term financial sustainability will help ensure that Council remains financially viable in the medium to long term. Council can reliably deliver the works and services required by our community. Our assets are maintained at appropriate levels and they are renewed, upgraded or replaced as planned. Current ratepayers are funding the works and services they consume now and are not burdening future ratepayers by intergenerational equity. And I'll move the recommendation that Council adopts the Financial Plan 2025 to 2035 in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020 and relevant regulations.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Driscoll, thank you. Is there any opposition? No, good. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, a shout out to Director of Corporate Services, Julie Landy, and also our Manager of Finance, Keith Caldwell. Look, the plan's important. It's a 10-year snapshot showing what we know now. Certainly, it's the 10 years ahead. It's pretty much steady as she goes. But the reality is you need to plan for success. Now, this is not a new, this is a new plan, but I've been on council over 10 years, and when I first got here, we had a 10-year financial plan, and we may have been one of the first councils in the state to have that, but we've always had one. We've always planned ahead, and we continue to operate within our budget that we set or thereabouts, and we're managing pretty much with the resources that were allocated. About 60% of our revenue comes from rates, and the balance is from grants. Rates there's always pressure to raise more rates, but there's always pushback, and we don't take raising rates lightly. In fact, we've always kept within the cap that Dan Andrews introduced, rate capping, and it's probably one thing that I can say that Dan Andrews did that I support, is introduce rate capping. But nonetheless, we've operated well over the past 10 years. We've got a very sound plan. The other 40% we rely on grant funding, and look, we work extremely hard. We've got dedicated people working very hard to engage with our state and federal government counterparts, always looking for funding opportunities. The reality of it is we haven't got a lot of spare cash, but if with this plan in place, we'll continue to operate in a sensible way, but certainly we'll take advantage of grant opportunities and opportunities for infrastructure should they arise in that period. So I commend the plan to you. There's no real surprises in it, but yeah, we've certainly done well over the last 10 years or so, and I'm sure we're going to do well into the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cordy. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I just want to, Corporate Director Julie Landy's doing a great job. Keith Caldwell, the finance team's doing a great job. We use a prudent amount of debt, in my opinion. The regular review of the financial plan keeps everybody on track. We visit this all the time. We're relatively conservative for the organisation, and I'm quite comfortable financially where we are, although I do point out it's going to get more difficult in the next few years, in my opinion. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? All right, back to you, Councillor Cordy.
Thanks, Mayor. Commend the report, commend the plan to you, and thanks again to the executive team and Julie Landy and Keith Caldwell. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Fantastic. And just echoing what other councillors have said, I think particularly picking up on the point that Councillor Driscoll made, that we are looking at things getting worse in the future financially for councils if we continue to operate in the environment that we are currently operating in, where our ability to raise revenue from rates is capped. Our ability to raise revenue elsewhere is limited. We are heavily reliant on state and federal funding, and that too is often tied, which means we aren't able to spend it flexibly. So we obviously as a council continue to advocate to both state and federal government for grant opportunities and funding streams that better suit the needs of a rural council like ours. We continue to advocate for increased untied funding, trusting councils to know our communities and prioritise the projects that will make the most impact, and also to continue to look into the financial sustainability of local government, as it was done in a recent inquiry at state level and as is still being done at federal level as well. And also thank you to Director Landy and Manager of Finance Keith Caldwell. Believe it or not, it is almost budget season, which we have deemed the season of Keith. So we will be seeing a lot more of both Julie and Keith very soon. (9.5.5) Councillor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor Induction Completion Compliance Report. Councillor Walker, would you introduce this item, please?
Yes, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to confirm with Council each councillor's successful completion of their induction program, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor's successful completion of the mayoral induction training as per the requirements set out in the Local Government Act 2020, Local Government Amendment Governance and Integrity Act 2024, and Local Government Governance and Integrity Amendment Regulations 2024. Council is compliant with the requirements of Councillor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor induction as prescribed in the amended regulations. The motion is that Council 1 notes the Councillor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor induction compliance report, and 2 notes Council is compliant with the requirements for Councillor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor induction as prescribed in the Local Government Act 2020, Local Government Amended Governance and Integrity Act 2024, and Local Government Governance and Integrity Amended Regulations 2024.
That was a mouthful. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Is there any opposition? Then Councillor Walker, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor. All councillors, whether new or returning, are required to go through an induction process. Would thank the corporate department for leading us through that. It was quite, certainly as a new council, a very deep an intense program with a lot of learning, which I think has helped us get onto a pretty sound footing where while we have difference of opinions, sometimes, pretty firm ones, we've done so respectfully. We work together as a team. I think a lot of that goes down to the training we've been taken through. That training includes mayoral training, the councillor induction training, professional development training. Some of it's been together, some of it's been individual, but we've got there. And I would recommend this should be mandatory for all state and federal politicians as well. Thank you.
Wise words there, Councillor Walker. Councillor Hayden, would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Thanks, Mayor. Just to reiterate that Council is compliant with the requirements for Councillor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor induction as prescribed in the amendment regulations. This is of note to the broader community, but really this is kind of an internal item for the council, so I don't want to go on, but I do want to thank Manager of Governance and Risk Leanne Brown and Director of Corporate Services Julie Landy for their hard work and focus and care and patience, especially for those of us who joined council in the end of 2024. The induction programs were enjoyable and insightful. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Just 2 things, Mayor. We have a excellent governance team, know their stuff, know what they're doing. And the second point I'd like to make is not all LGAs have completed this yet and are compliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. Seconding everything everyone else has said, and just noting as well that a lot of councils opt to do this through sort of centralised pay for service programs. So I assume that we've probably saved quite a bit of money by doing it in-house, and that it also enabled it to be very tailored to our individual context. So I really appreciate the work of officers there, particularly you, Julie. and Leanne and the rest of the governance staff. Yeah, it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then back to Councillor Walker. You have a right of reply.
I think it's all covered, Mayor.
No worries. Thank you, everyone. I will put the motion. All in favour? That's all of us. Motion is carried. My quick 2 cents. I think, you know, we've done, I've done a councillor induction twice. I think what was particularly appreciated by returning councillors was how our feedback to the team was listened to, and some of our suggestions for what we felt could have really helped us when we were new councillors was incorporated into the induction program. The other new aspect is obviously the mandatory mayor and deputy mayor training, which the deputy mayor and I attended in Melbourne very late last year, which was good. I found it really good. And, you know, even though I've been the mayor before, it's mandatory, so you have to do it, 1. And 2, I learnt new things, and I connected with other people, and even some things, it was just thinking about it from a slightly different way. I think the governance team, particularly under Julie Landy and Leanne Brown, have done a really fantastic job inducting us as a council, because even though, you know, some of us were on council during the last term, it is new every single time. Every single council is different. And I think the context and the world around us is changing at the same time. So making sure that the induction was relevant to us, responded to, you know, new and emerging things, and was, I think someone said, it was quite gentle. You know, it wasn't being hit over the head with too much information all at once. It was well paced, and I felt that it was very respectful to us as people who were often learning quite a lot at once. We have a fantastic governance team, as has been pointed out, and we are very lucky to have them, and we appreciate their work on this and many other things. I think we have reached item 10, delegates reports. So, councillors, I'm just going to do a quick rip around, starting with Councillor Driscoll. Would you like to do a delegates report? Councillor Maltby, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Cordy.
Just briefly, Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge Thompson's. Had their 150th anniversary. Like they're known by a lot of different names in the town. They used to be known as the Foundry when I was a kid, but 150 years of engineering excellence, fantastic organisation, and they opened the works to the community. And a lot of people went and had a look, and yeah, it was a great day, and a lot of useful information. And I would note that Lisa Chesters was there to unveil a plaque celebrating the 150th. So well done to the Foundry for opening their doors on that occasion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cordy. Councillor Walker.
2 quick points. Last Saturday was the Emergency Expo at Western Oval. A whole number of emergency services were there. I was present not as a councillor, as a volunteer with one of those services. My guess is probably over 1,000 people went through, so it's very useful. And second point, I'm on leave from 31st of October to 17th of November. Thank you.
Yeah, have nice leave. Think of us sitting in this room, and yeah, don't actually enjoy your leave, and we'll hold the fort in your absence. Councillor Hastwell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things quickly. I mentioned, I think last time, that the Barringup Ball was coming up. Obviously, I was very excited. It pretty much lived up to expectations. It's an amazing night. It's incredible to see 200 people, mostly who are over 50, dressed up as their favourite music stars, and making the most of a very energetic band. so that was great, and just want to congratulate the organisers again. That little community there at Baringup really hits above their weight. It was great to hold a listening post at the Malden Market the other weekend, and to hear directly from people about a whole range of issues, and to engage in that sort of longer conversation that we don't always have the opportunity to, really be face to face. So that was great. Also wonderful to be at the opening of the Castlemaine Goods Shed. What an incredible venue, and amazing work by Castlemaine State Festival. A real credit, and will really add to the options for arts and cultural and community activities down there. And yes, October is definitely the season for CFA Open Days, and it was just great to get down to the Malden CFA Open Day to see the shiny new truck, to have a bit of a look inside and see how incredibly well organised that outfit is, and again how dependent we are, sometimes without appreciating it, on the volunteer efforts and the skill and the expertise that goes into keeping our communities safe. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hastwell. Councillor Maddock.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going through my diary before. It's been a very fun month for me. A few things I want to talk about. Attendance of the with my kids to the school holiday event Playdate at the Fee Broadway. Had us dancing and doing all sorts of fun stuff. It was just excellent. And as a parent surviving the school holidays, looking for things to do, the opportunities that the Shire can provide in collaboration with some other organisations in town as well is very gratefully received. Lot 19 Sculpture Prize last weekend. I think this is my favourite visual arts event in our Shire's yearly calendar. Not our Shire Council, in the Shire more broadly. It's incredibly accessible, but also the work is just at such a high quality, and a lot of very local specific content and conversations being sparked by the artworks. Commend the efforts of the Lot 19 organisation getting that together. Opening the goods shed was awesome. Rosalie's already talked about it, so I'll skip over. I'm sure Rosie will have some things to say as well, but yeah, excited about the potential that brings. And then this Sunday night had a lot of gratitude to attend Bob Brown's speech at the town hall. He sold out the Fee Broadway. So they moved to the town hall and they sold out the town hall. And it was just wonderful. There's about 300 people in attendance there, and really underlining, I think, the take home for me of all that is, we are facing something really dire, and we have to rise to the challenges of that. And then lastly, just noting that I'll be doing a listening post at November 1 in the forecourt of the workspace at the old hospital site. That is in conjunction with an event and a bike swap meet that's happening, and specifically for the time that it's going to be a kids bike swap. So I'm running that as both an active transport and an early years listening post, given that I'm sitting on both of those committees. So yeah, come and say hello. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maddock. I think it's my go. The acting CEO and I have our list. I think, given the time, I'm only going to pick up on a couple in detail, and that is that the acting CEO and I attended the MAV, Municipal Association of Victoria's 2025 annual conference, as well as the Councillor Service Awards dinner, which is where councillors who've served different lengths of time on council are honoured and celebrated for that commitment and that achievement. That was really nice. And we also attended the next day this MAV State Council meeting, at which our council had submitted a motion, which I got ready and then clicked out of. So the motion that we submitted was around advocating to state and federal government for, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but very basically, we often do not fit as a small rural council. We often don't fit the programs currently on offer that fund housing. We are particularly interested at Mount Alexander Shire in providing affordable housing, and we have a number of projects that we are seeking funding for that we think would be incredible, including a project out here in Templeton Street, including projects in Newstead and Malden, including other projects that we haven't even really talked about yet, as well as obviously the opportunities that the Mount Alexander Affordable Housing Trust could lead to for us. So our motion was really calling on state and federal government to think about the different contexts of councils, rural, remote, regional, interface and metro. Think about the different needs that their communities have. Think about the impact that housing makes in those different communities, and really provide more equitable funding to different types of councils, as well as supporting and resourcing councils to apply for the funding itself, which can often be a very time-consuming and expensive process. So it was really around seeking policy and legislation change that recognised that a one-size-fits-all approach to funding for housing for local governments is not going to work. We are not a metro council. We cannot build to the scale they can. Things cost more here. Our community is very different. Our communities are very different, and that context is important. But the benefit of housing here is huge, and we know that. So I guess this is another way that we are continuing our advocacy and really, really trying to be heard that rural is not regional, is not interface, is not metro, and that we have good ideas that we should be enabled to bring to fruition, because they might work and they might be a really amazing thing that helps not only our own community, that can potentially help other communities. It was really exciting to bring a motion through State Council. It's not something I'd ever done before, and our motion got up with 100% of the vote of attendees, which was also really, really good news. We also attended the MAV conference while we were there, which was really interesting. I think it was interesting in two ways. One, some of the sessions were really fantastic. I particularly enjoyed the sessions highlighting young mayors and youth mayor programs. So hearing from young people who are democratically elected by other young people in their municipalities, who then run a council basically like this, but they're like 19. It was incredible, and particularly striking to me was meeting the mayor and deputy mayor from one of our neighbouring councils of City of Greater Bendigo, who just blew me away with their, they were just very switched on, and I was incredibly impressed. I know they have worked before with our youth advisory group, and it's nice to have those collaborative relationships and to see, what young people are capable of. I think the other thing that we did while we were in the city was a little while ago, along with some other councils, we were co-signatories to an advocacy letter that was sent on to the Premier, the Treasurer, and I can't quite remember the other one, the Minister for Local Government. And broadly, this letter called on, one, an immediate moratorium on the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund, and two, the establishment of an independent public inquiry to determine the most equitable long-term funding model for emergency services. So we, along with other councils who are feeling their communities are affected by this levy, decided to write a joint letter requesting a meeting with some of these people in power. At the time that we met on this day when we were in Melbourne for State Council, none of us had received a reply to that letter, which had been sent about a month prior. The decision was made by members of that group to meet in person and hand deliver again this letter to Treasury. We were at Treasury, yes. So that was, that was again something that I haven't done before. It was a good thing to do, and I'm glad that we are a part of that movement. I'm glad that our advocacy around the potential implications of the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund on communities like ours continues, and that we've been relatively, we've been consistent the entire time with our advocacy that we understand that there is a need to better fund these services and to meet the needs of a changing climate with more extreme weather events and emergencies, but that kind of imposing a new tax on people and getting local government to collect it on state's behalf did not sit super well with us, that we were asking for them to press pause and to have an independent inquiry into it, which is exactly what we asked for in this letter, exactly what we have asked for at council before. Otherwise, I went and did a lot of really nice things. You can see on this list. I also had a pretty fun month, honestly. Acting CEO, would you like to speak to anything on the list?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just speak to one. I had the opportunity to attend the Dja Dja Wurrung Group's showcase session along with a number of managers and coordinators, and it was a really impressive day that was able to provide to the officers of the organisation a greater and in-depth knowledge of the way that JARA or Dja Dja Wurrung Corporation is working, the extent of their services they provide, and the depth of maturity that they've been able to develop in quite a short period of time. It was a really good opportunity to come together with the other 11 local government organisations that are on JARA country and to really engage with the CEO all the way through to officers that are delivering on-country work such as fire management, etc. as we go ahead. In many ways, it reminded me of the event we held here in Council, the Council Open Day back in 2023, in which provided an opportunity to showcase the services that we do here. But in many ways, it allowed us to have a further discussion around the partnership that we as the institution here in Mount Alexander Shire, together with the institution of Dja Dja Wurrung, are working towards to strengthen and develop. And I was really, really proud of the fact that at every service or at every enterprise that JARA has, when we spoke to them, we were able to talk about how we are cooperating for that particular enterprise, whether it was around recognising cultural history or language through to land management. So the work that we've had JARA work with us on biodiversity study in Harcourt, or the development of the Frederick Street and Mechanics Lane, or the Castlemaine Art Museum, through to renaming of Campbell's Creek, or the proposal for the naming of Campbell's Creek and the new path there. Across everything that they do, we were already speaking and engaging. It just goes to the testament of the work that our officers are doing and what this council is behind. And secondly, maybe, Mayor, just as a cheeky last point, I might congratulate everybody on achieving your first year induction outcomes as councillors. I say that cheekily, but the reason is to introduce that important point that I think, as Councillor Driscoll mentioned, not all councils have been able to achieve that. And what I see in that from my position is not just that you've achieved an induction program, but the respect that you've given to this organisation for going through and taking that induction seriously. I know many people know many of the issues already from our returning councillors, and some of the new councillors did as well. But the way that you engaged as a councillor group and as individuals in attending that induction, in taking it seriously, in asking questions, in being inquisitive, shows a lot of respect to the organisation, a lot of respect to the community that you are delivering your role as a councillor, as you've chosen to volunteer to do so. So I think that's the point I wanted to make, while also congratulating you on that first year. But thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Acting CEO. And before I speed through our last couple of things and wrap up the meeting, I think it is worth acknowledging that Michael has been acting in the CEO role while Darren, our usual CEO, has been on leave for the past little while. Darren is back on Monday, but really, Michael, I guess we wanted to say thank you for how amazing you've been in the role and the support and guidance that you've offered us. And it's just been, and particularly I think as Mayor, it's been a real pleasure working with you as CEO and Mayor during Darren's absence. Thank you, for the attention that you've given us, and it's been really nice. And we appreciate your time and expertise very much. I think also it's worth mentioning that while Michael has been acting in the CEO role, a number of managers have been acting in Michael's usual role of Director of Infrastructure and Development. Firstly, Georgina Johnson, Manager of Development Services. then Manager of Parks, Recreation and Community Facilities, Karen Evanet, and now obviously Manager of Operations, Cameron Duthie, who is acting in the Director role at the moment. And just extending to all of you our thanks as well for, fitting in with us so willingly and being open to all our questions and, for the advice that you have given us, and for, I guess everyone has just held that space that could have been a big Darren-shaped hole, but has instead, I think, offered us an opportunity to spend time with different people, and it's been really lovely. But obviously we will welcome the CEO back next week and hope that he is well rested, because we still have a lot of work to do. But for everyone who's been acting in other roles, I think we're all very appreciative. So especially you, Michael, thank you. All right, notice of motion at item 11, we have nil. Urgent special business at item 12, there is nil. Confidential items at item 13 is nil, which means I will close the meeting at 9:26 p.m.